see. It's the wrong phone. You gotta get my other phone. Send a note out to all of you. Wow, so many messages. So, ready? Check to see if we're online. We are online. Fantastico. From Fiji, a hotel in Fiji. All right. Let's see. It's nice to see everybody. And we're going to start our class. I'm again in Fiji, and we're in this hotel in isolation right now to avoid infecting anyone. Don't worry, I don't have the virus. Tomorrow I will be out and a free man. That would be ecstatic if I can be free tomorrow. It's like being in prison in a hotel. So anyway, so I guess we'll start. Hold on a second, got to get everything organized. Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janabalaba Iri Vadadhaude Gopi Jana Malaba Giri Vadadhaude Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Manachari Yamuna Tira Manachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janabalaba Giri Vadadhaude Gopi Jana Malaba Giri Vadadhaude Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Manachari Yamuna Tira Manachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Namaho Vishnu Patahaya Krishna Pristaya Mutale Shimati Bhakti Vedanta Samin Iti Namade Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nivashesha Shunya Vadhi Paschacha Deshatarine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nivashesha Shunyavati Pasyacha Tejatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gauru Bhaktavrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Haribo Nitya Gaur Haribo Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravatikacharya, also Teta Satishi Shimad, His Divine Grace of Ayachalananda Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Anandakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Prem Say Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaur Bhaktavrinda Ki Jai, Shri Shri Radhakrishna Gopatna Shayam Kund Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Vrindavanam Ki Jai, Mathuradam Ki Jai, Jagadata Swami Ki Jai, Yamunamai Ki Jai, Shrimati Tulasi Devi Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Gaur. All glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Pudle Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namadi Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurani Jani Nivasesha Shinyavadi Paschatya Deshitardi. So, very nice to see all of you. and we're in Fiji still. It's Fiji still. We just got to Fiji. And so we're in isolation for the first 3 days. And tomorrow we get out and we can be with the devotees. We have some big programs tomorrow, and we're going to put those programs maybe on Zoom or most likely just on Facebook or YouTube. Anyway, we'll figure it out. Let's figure it out later today. And we should be able to have this class tomorrow at the same time. Just before this class, I had a very interesting discussion about personalism versus impersonalism. And it was very, very interesting because the basic problem with impersonalism is that there's no relationships there, and the happiness comes from relationships. Loving relationships. Happiness doesn't come from just negating everything and just becoming one, which is such a boring, disgusting, creepy type of concept. That's horrible. You think we all become one. I become you, you become me. Then what am I speaking on the internet? What am I giving class for if I am actually one? If we're all the same person? Doesn't make sense, doesn't it? Anyway, so the point is we are one and different simultaneously. It's not that we disagree that we are one, but we're one in quality. We have the same qualities as everybody else, including Krishna, and different quantity than Krishna, and we're all eternally individuals. And the reason we're suffering is not because of the individuality. The reason we're suffering is because we are in an improper atmosphere in the material world. It's not the individuality. I mean, it's like Prabhupada gave the example that let's say if your eye has some disease, it's not that you take out the eye, you cure the disease. If your hand has some infection, it's not that you get rid of the hand, you cure so you can actually enjoy it. It's actually really interesting. Okay, so we're not going to talk about that today, but it was an interesting discussion we had just before we got online. Actually, was online with someone else. Okay, so, gang, let us continue. Hold on a second. All right. Chakshuram meditam yena tasmai shigurave namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances under the lotus feet of my spiritual master, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, who so kindly opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge while I was blinded in the darkness of ignorancia. Okay, so let's go ahead. Jaya Jaya Shri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. So we're reading from the Chaitanya Sri Caitanya Caritamrta, Madhya Lila, chapter 20, and beginning with text 175 today. Okay, well, this is different categories of expansions to the Lord. These are the teachings that Lord Chaitanya is giving to Sanatan Goswami in Benares. Okay. Vai Baba Prakasha Yache Devaki Tanuja Dvibhuja Sarupa Kabu Kabuhaya Chaturubhuja. An example of Vaibhava Prakasha is the son of Devaki. He sometimes has 2 hands and sometimes 4 hands. When Lord Krishna took his birth, he appeared outside the womb as 4-handed Vishnu. Then Devaki and Vasudeva offered their prayers to him and asked him to assume his 2-handed form. The Lord immediately assumed his 2-handed form and ordered that he be transferred to Gokula on the other side of the river Yamuna. I think you all know that story. I don't think I need to tell the story again. Ye kale dvibhuja nama vaibhava prakasha chaturbuja hele nama prabhava prakasha. When the Lord is two-handed, he is called Vaibhava Prakasha, and when he is four-handed, he is called Prabhava Prakasha. Prakasha means to reveal. Okay. Swayam Rupera Gopavesha Gopa Abhimana Vasudevera Kshatriyavesha Amishatriya Jnana. In his original form, the Lord dresses like a coward boy and thinks himself one. When he appears as Vasudeva, the son of Vasudeva and Devaki, his dress and consciousness are those of a Kshatriya, a warrior. Saundarya Ishvarya Madhurya Vaidagya Vilasa Vajendra Nandaneha Adhika Ulasa. When one compares the beauty, opulence, sweetness, and intellectual pastimes of Vasudeva the warrior to Krishna the coward boy, son of Nanda Maharaj, one sees that Krishna's attributes are more pleasant. Why are they more pleasant? Because they're more intimate. Outside of Vrindavan, Krishna does not play his flute. Got news for you. Regardless of what you may see in the Bollywood movies, Krishna never plays his flute outside of Vrindavan. He leaves it behind. Outside of Vrindavan, Krishna doesn't have these pastimes like dancing with other people's wives in the middle of the night. Woo! Outside of Vrindavan, Krishna doesn't exhibit beauty that even attracts the other incarnations. And outside of Vrindavan, Krishna doesn't have these let's say, intimate devotees. Okay, so there's the four qualities of God that only exist in Vrindavan. Govindera Madhuri Degi Vasudevera Kshubha Se Madhuri Ashvadite Upachaya Lava. Indeed, Vasudeva is agitated just to see the sweetness of Govinda, and a transcendental greed awakens in him to enjoy that sweetness. So this is really funny, or amazing. Funny in the sense of amazing. Vasudeva is no different than Krishna. It's not Vasudeva. Vasudeva is the father of Krishna in Mathura. But Vasudeva is Krishna, Krishna's expansion, because Krishna himself, as Govinda, never leaves Vrindavan. So Krishna's expansion doesn't, this is really hard to understand. Don't get me wrong. Krishna's expansion, Vasudeva, is the same as Krishna, but in a different mood, but simultaneously, and in that expansion, he's forgetting he's the same as Krishna. And so he looks at the sweetness, or hears about the sweetness of Govinda, and a greed awakens in him to enjoy that sweetness. I mean, these things are achintya, inconceivable. Okay. Udgirna bhutta madhuri parimala yasya viralilasyame vaitam hanta samikshayan muhuraso achitriyate charana cheta gene kutahalotaral turalitam sacham sakemamakam yasya preksha sarupatam prajapadu sarupyam manu anivichyati. My dear friend, this dramatic actor appears like a second form of my own self, this Rupa Goswami's writings. Like a picture, he displays my pastimes as a coward boy overflowing with wonderfully attractive sweetness and fragrance which are so dear to the damsels of Braja. When I see such a display, my heart becomes greatly agitated. I long for such pastimes and desire a form exactly like that of the damsels of Braja. So even Krishna becomes attracted to this. This is a this is a verse spoken. It's found in the Lila, Madhya, which is a play by Srila Rupa Goswami, 419. It was spoken by Vasudeva, that's Krishna's expansion, in Dwarka. So Krishna's expansion in Dwarka wants a form like that, a damsel of Braja, because he becomes attracted to his self, the same self, in Vrindavan. It's pretty amazing. Mathuraya yaiche gandharva nurcha tarashane punadvara kate yache chitra vilokare. One instance of Vasudeva's attraction to Krishna occurred when Vasudeva saw the Gandharva dance at Mathura. Another instance occurred in Dwarka when Vasudeva was surprised to see a picture of Krishna. So remember, Vasudeva is Krishna, Advaita Chuta Anadi Ananta Rupam, Adyam Purana Purasham Navayovanam Cha. I mean, this is simply amazing. This is so esoteric that it's amazing. I'm just like overwhelmed with amazement to hear these particular pastimes. So Krishna as Vasudeva, same person, Advaita Chuta, not Anantarupam, sees a picture of himself and he becomes attracted to himself. Oh my God, this is so amazing. Apari kalilita purva kaschamakara kari purato mama gariyan eshamadurya puraha ayam maham abhihanta prekshayam ludachita sarava samupabhoktum kamaye radikeva. Who manifests an abundance of sweetness greater than mine? Krishna is talking about himself, which has never been experienced before, which causes wonder to all. Alas, I myself, my mind, bewildered upon seeing this beauty, impetuously desired to enjoy it like Srimati Radharani. Of course, that's also Lord Chaitanya's mood. This verse was spoken by Vasudeva in Dwarka. Is also recorded by Srila Rupa Goswami in his Lila Madhya 834. Lila Madhya is Krishna's pastimes in Dwarka. Amazing, amazing, amazing. Sevapu vina base kachu vinakara bhava veshakriti vede tadekatmanama tandra. When that body is a little differently manifested and its features are a little different in transcendental motion form, it is called tadekatma. A little bit different manifested. Tadekatma rupe vilasa shvamsa dui veda vilasa samshara vede vivida viveda. Excuse me. And the tadekatma rupa, there are pastime expansions, vilas, and personal expansions, shwamsha. You actually already heard about this the other day. Consequently, there are two divisions. According to pastimes and personal expansions, there are various differences. The Lord's vilas, that means pastimes expansions, are described in the following verse from the Lagu Bhagavatamrta 115. Svarupam manyakaram yatashyavati vilasataha prayenatma samam shatya savilaso nigadyate. When the Lord displays numerous forms with different features by his inconceivable potency, such forms are called vilas vigrahas. Vigraha means form, pastimes, forms. The Lord's Shvamsa expansions, Shva-Omsa expansions, are also described in the Lagu Bhagavatamrita. Tadrasho niyuna shaktim yovyanakti swamshairita sankashanadir matshadir yata tat aswadham vasu. When a form of Krishna is not different from its original form but is less important, exhibits less potency, is called Swamsha. Examples of Swamsha expansion can be found in the quadruple forms of the Lord residing in their respective places, beginning with Sankarshan, Vasudeva, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha, and also in the Purusha avatars, Lila avatars, Manvantara avatars, and Yuga avatars. So some of these Swamsha avatars are also Aveshas. Anyway, not going to get too much into the technicality, but there was actually a whole chart, some back to Godhead, that was written a number of years ago. Sorry, I got to get closer. That gives the differentiation between these different types, but these types are not mutually exclusive, because what you see described above, like Manvantara avatars are not necessarily Vishnu Tattva, but they can be empowered Avesha. And the Purusha avatars of Vishnu Tattva, and the Lila avatars of Vishnu Tattva, and the Yuga avatars are generally Vishnu Tattva. Maybe some exceptions. Prabhava Vaibhava Vede Vilasa Dvidakara Vilasera Vilasa Veda Anandapakara. Again, the Vilas forms are divided into twofold categories. This gets more complicated: Prabhava and Vaibhava. Again, the pastimes of these forms are unlimited variety. Prabhava Vilasa Vasudeva Sankarshana Prajuna Niruddha Mukhya Charijana. The chief quadruple expansions are named Vasudeva, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. These are called Prabhava Vilasa. Raja Gopa Bhava Ramera Pure Kshatriya Bhavana Varnavesha Veda Tate Vilasa Tanra Nama. Balaram, who has the same original form as Krishna, is himself a coward boy in Vrindavan, and he also considers himself a member of the Kshatriya race in Dwarka. Thus his color and dress are different, and he is called a pastime form of Krishna. Pastime means vilasa. Yeah. He's also Prakasha, anyway. It gets a little complicated because these are not mutually exclusive. Vaibhava Prakashe Ara Prabhava Vilase Eka Hi Murte Baladeva Bhava Vede Vase. Sri Balaram is a Vaibhava Prakasha manifestation of Krishna, which is what I said. He is also manifested in the original quadruple expansions of Vasudeva. Sankarshan is another name of Balaram. Pradyumna and Aniruddha, these are different Prabhava Vilasa expansions with different emotions. Adi Chaturvyuha Inhara Kea Nahi Sama Ananda Chaturvyuha Kadera Prakatya Karana. The first expansion of the Chaturvyuha quadruple forms is unique. There's nothing to compare to them. These quadruple forms are the source of unlimited quadruple forms. Quadruple forms means four forms. That's Vasudeva, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. And of course, the original personality is Krishna, expansion is Balaram, and then Pradyumna and Aniruddha, and then there's the second quadruple, Vasudeva, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. And so you see this four forms of the Lord expanding to four more forms, into four more forms. The question is, and which form of Krishna is Vishnu attracted to? Krishna Vrindavan. Krishna Rahe Chare Prabhava Vilasa, and also Krishna, yes, and also Krishna and Dwarka, because that's that whole story in the Krishna book. We're not going to tell the story now. Krishna Rahe Chare Prabhava Vilasa. In other words, Krishna is but even Krishna, okay, let's answer this question properly. Even Krishna is attracted to himself in Vrindavan. There's that story, he sees a reflection of himself and he says, who is this attractive boy? So even Krishna is so attractive, he attracts himself. And therefore, because Krishna attracts himself, he wants to see himself from his beloved's perspective, and therefore Krishna comes as Caitanya Mahaprabhu to see himself from his beloved's perspective, and also to enjoy from her perspective, and also trying to understand the love that Radharani has for him. It's very esoteric. Krishna Rahi Chari Prabhava Vilasa Dwarka Mathura Pure Nichayan Harabhasa. These four Prabhava pastimes forms of Lord Krishna reside eternally in Dwarka and Mathura, Vasudeva, Sankarshan, Prajuna, and Aniruddha. And also we see these four in the pastimes of Lord Ramchandra. And what are those? That Ram, Lakshman, Bharat, and Shatrughna, isn't it? So we see these four pastime forms appearing, basically appearing everywhere. In every time the Supreme Personality of Godhead appears. Eichari haite Chavishamurti Prakasha Ashravede Namaveda Vaibhava Vilasa. From the original quadruple expansion as Vasudeva Sankarshan, original would be Krishna, Balaram, Prajuna, and Buddha. 24 forms of manifest. They differ according to the placement of weapons in their four hands. They're called Vaibhava Vilasa. Don't worry, you don't have to remember all these definitions to go back to Godhead. This is very, very technical. Puna Krishna Chatavyuha Lana Purvi Rupe Paravyuma Madhya Vaishe Narayana Rupe. Lord Krishna again expands him within the Paravyoma, the spiritual sky is situated in fullness as the four-handed Narayan, accompanied by expansions of the original quadruple forms. At the top of the Paravyoma, spiritual sky, there is Goloka Vrindavan, which is divided into three parts. Two of these parts, called Mathura and Dwarka, are the residences of Krishna in his Prabhava Vilas forms. Got it? Balaram Krishna's Vaibhava Prakash, that means is eternally situated in Gokula. Prakash means to reveal or to give light. So Balaram, I was listening to a class where Prabhupada was talking about this morning. He said Balaram is Vaibhava Prakash because he gives light. This is actually quite interesting. Yeah, I should expand on this. He gives light to Krishna. What does that mean? He gives light. Does Krishna need light? No. He gives light to us. Therefore, Balaram is the original guru. Because without having the light, what is that verse we chant before class? Chakshurun Vilitam Yena Tasmai Shivadveda Maha. That the spiritual master enlightens us with the torchlight of knowledge. He lightens up Krishna for us. Krishna's already light. And so that's why he's called Vaibhava Prakash. Try to understand. Vilas means pastime, and Prakash means to give light to. Like the sunshine. Let the sun in. Anyway, from the quadruple Vaibhava Vilasa, that means Vasudeva, Sankarshan, Prajuna, and Aniruddha. These pastimes, 24 forms of Vaibhava Vilasa are expanded. Each has four hands holding weapons in different positions. The topmost planet in the spiritual sky is Goloka Vrindavan. Below that planet is the spiritual sky itself. In that spiritual sky, Krishna himself is four-handed and is situated as Narayana. But we are attracted to where Krishna is two-handed and situated as Govinda. Tanhaite Puna Chaturvyuha Parakasha Avarana Rupe Charidike Yanavasa. Thus, the original quadruple forms again manifest themselves in a second set of quadruple expansion. We talked about this before. The resonances of these second quadruple expansions cover the four directions. Chari Janera Puna Prita Tina Tina Murti Keshavadiya Haite Vilasera Purti. Again, these quadruple forms expand three times, beginning with Keshava. That's Keshava refers not to Krishna in Vrindavan, but the Keshava, which is one of the quadruple forms. That is the fulfillment of the pastime forms, pastime Vilasa. Chandradi Dharana Vede Nama Veda Sava Vasudeva Bhurti Keshava Narayana Madhava. Out of the Chaturvyuha, There are 3 expansions of each and every form, and they are named differently according to the position of the weapons. The Vasudeva expansions are Keshava, Narayana, and Madhava. It's very technical. So then we're going to talk about Sankarshan's expansion. Sankarshan Ramurti Govinda Vishnu Madhusudana Hanya Govinda Nahi Brajendra Nandana. The expansions of Sankarshan, this Balaram, are Govinda, Vishnu, and Madhusudana. These are the 24, altogether 24 we're going to hear about. This Govinda is different from the original Govinda, for he is not the son of Maharaj Nanda. This is a four-handed Govinda, not the Govinda in the spiritual world. Not the Govinda, in Goloka Vrindavan. It is the spiritual world. Prajumnera Murti, Trivikrama Bhavana Shritara, Anirudera Murti, Rishikesha Padmanabha Damadara. The expansions of Prajuna are Trivikrama, Vamana, and Sridhara. The expansions of Aniruddha are Rishikesha, Padmanabha, and Damadara. Dwadasha Masera Devata Ibarajana Magashir She Keshava Poshe Narayana. These 12 are the predominating deities of the 3 months. Keshava is the predominating deity of Agrahayana, and Narayana is the predominating deity of Posha. Mangera Devata Madhava Govinda Pagune Chaitra Vishnu Vaishaka Srimadhusudana. The predominating deity of the month of Madhava is Magha is Madhava, and the predominating deity of the month of Phalguna is Govinda. Vishnu is the predominating deity of Chaitra, and Madhusudana is the predominating deity of Vaishaka. Jaishte Trivikrama Hasade Vamana Devesha Shabane Sridhara Patre Deva Rishikesha. In the month of Jaishta, the predominating deity is Trivikrama. You don't have to remember all this, don't worry. In Ashada, the predominating deity is Vamana, and Shravana, the deity is Sridhara, and Bhadra, the deity is Rishikesha. Ashvine Padmanabha Kartike Damadara Radhadamanaranya Vrachendra Konara. In the month of Ashvina, the predominating deity is Padmanabha, and in Kartik, it is Damodar. This Damodar is different from Radha Damodar, the son of Nanda Maharaj and Vrindavan. So, we're talking about all these Vishnu expansions that are different and the same simultaneously from Krishna and Vrindavan. It is very esoteric. Dwadasha Tilaka Mantra, Dwadasha Nama, Achamane Name Sparshi Tat Sthana. When putting the 12 tilak marks on the 12 places of the body, one has to chant the mantra consisting of these 12 Vishnu names. Also, when one anoints the different parts of the body with water, these names should be chanted as one touches each part of the body. And we do that while we put on tilak. While marking the body with tilak, one should chant the following mantra, which consists of the 12 names of Vishnu. Lalati Keshavam Dhyayan Narayana Matodare Vakshastale Madhavam Tu Govinda Kata Kupake Vishnum Chadakshane Kuksha Bahocha Adusunanam Tripakramam Kandare Tu Vamanam Vama Parshvake Shridaram Vamabaho Tu Rishikesham Tu Kandare Pratejak Padmanabam Chakatyam Namadaram. Just said, when one marks the forehead with tilak, he must remember Keshava. Keshvaya Namaha. When one marks the lower abdomen, he must remember Narayanaya Namaha. For the chest, one should remember Madhavaya Namaha. When marking the hollow of the neck, one should remember Govindaya. Lord Vishnu should be remembered while marking the right side of it. Vishnave Namaha. Madhusudana should be remembered when marking the right arm. Right arm is the right arm. Madhusadana Sudana. Trivikramaya should be remembered when marking the right shoulder. And Vamana should be remembered when marking the left side of the belly. Vamanaya Namaha. And then Sridharaya Shura should remember when marking the left arm, and Rishikesh should remember when marking the left shoulder. Padmanabha and Damodar should remember when marking the back. Padmanabha. Damodoraya Namaha. Vasudevaya Namaha. Chari Janera Vilasamurti Arashta Jana Tansabara Namakahi Shudasanatana. From Vasudeva, Sankarshan, Pradyumna and Aniruddha, there are 8 additional pastime expansions. O Sanatana, please hear me as I mention their names. It's a little complicated here. Purushottama, Achyuta, Nishinga, Janardana, Hari Krishna, Adhoksaja, Upendra, Ashta Jana. The 8 pastime expansions are Purushottam, Achyuta, Nishinga, Janardana, Hari Krishna, Adhoksaja, and Upendra. Don't worry, you don't have to remember all these things, but it's purifying to hear these things. Vasudeva Rabilasadvi, Adhoksaja Purushottama, Sankarshanera Vilas Upendra Chuta Dvijana. Of these 8 expansions, 2 are pastime forms of Vasudeva. Their names are Adhoksaja Purushottam, the 2 pastime forms of Sankarshan and Janardana, and the pastime forms of Aniruddha are Hari and Krishna. Now, you can see this is all very, very scientifically, elaborately explained. This is not something sentimental. So we can see who are expansions of expansions and the categories of expansions. It is quite complex. And you don't have to remember all these things. All you have to remember is Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hari Hari, Hari Rama, Rama Rama, Hari Hari. And everything is contained within the holy name of the Lord. Even if you forget other mantras or whatever, if you simply chant the Lord's holy name, what is it? Namachintamani Krishna's Caitanya Rasa Vigraha Purnashuddha Nichimukto Vinatvam Namanamino. In other words, don't worry. Everything is there in the holy name, even if you forget every single other mantra. You can just chant Hare Krishna. And that takes care of everything. And that's what I usually do, because I don't remember all these mantras. Chabesha Murti Prabhava Vilasa Pradana Shradana Vede Vedare Bina Bina Nama. All these 24 forms constitute the chief Prabhava Vilas pastime forms of the Lord. They are named differently according to the position of the weapons in their hands. We describe that. Not that all are weapons. There's 2 weapons, club and discus. And there's 2 non-weapons in the hands. It's the concho, right? And the lotus flower. Those aren't weapons. As I mentioned yesterday, you can't hurt anyone with the lotus flower, no matter how much force you put into hitting someone. Concho, I guess you could hurt someone with it. But concho is made for giving people intelligence. It's like you have the story of Dhruva Maharaj, who was meditating and chanting the names of God, and he didn't know how to offer prayers, so Krishna touched his head with the concho, and he was able to offer the most erudite prayers imaginable. So, and lotus flower. So these are not weapons, but although in this particular verse they're described as symbols of weapons, it's okay, we understand. So in Hara Madhya Yahara, Haya Akara Vesha Veda, Say Haya Vilasa Pai Baba Viveda. Of all these, the forms that differ in dress and features are distinguished as Vaivava Vilasa. Padmanabha Trivikrama Nrsimhavamana Hari Krishna Adi Gahaya Akari Vilakshana. Of them, Padmanabha, Trivikrama, Nrsimhavamana, Hari Krishna, and so on, all have different bodily features. Krishnera Prabhava Vilasa Vasudeva Adi Chari Jana, say Chari Janara Vilasa Vimshati Ganana. Vasudeva and the 3 others are direct Prabhava pastime forms of Lord Krishna. Of these quadruple forms, the pastime expansions are 20 in number. Inha Savara Pratak, Vaikuntha Paravyoma Dame, Purvadi Ashtatike, Tina Krame. All these forms preside over different Vaikuntha planets in the spiritual world, beginning from the east in consecutive order. There are 3 different forms in each of the 8 directions. Alrighty. Yadyapi Paravyoma Sabhakara Nityadama Tatapi Brahmanande Koru Kanos Anidara. Although they all have their residences eternally in the spiritual sky, some of them are situated within the material universes. In other words, the Lord appears in the material universes in the same forms as he has planets in the spiritual sky. Paravyoma Madhya Narayanera Nityastiti Paravyoma Pari Krishna Lokera Vibhuti. There is an eternal residence of Narayan in the spiritual sky. In the upper portion of the spiritual sky is a planet known as Krishna Loka, which is filled with all opulence. That's where we like to go, to Krishna Loka, Galoka Vrindavan. Eka Krishna Loka Haya Triveda Prakara Golokha Maturakya Varakakya Hara. The planet of Krishna Loka is divided into three sections: Gokula, Mathura, and Dwarka. So this is actually repetitive, some of the previous verses. Gokula is where Krishna does his most intimate pastimes. Mathura and Dwarka, where there's pastimes of more awe and reverence. Now, also in the section known as Gokula, there's two sections. One is Braj, and the other section is Navadvip, or Mayapur, because Lord Caitanya also appears in Gokula. So those devotees who are devotees of Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu, they go to that section. And those devotees who are devotees of Krishna go to that section. And those devotees who are devotees of both Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu and Krishna, they go to both sections. How can you go to both sections? That's the spiritual body. You can be in two places simultaneously. You can't be in unlimited places simultaneously like Krishna, but you can be in two places simultaneously, in Krishna's pastimes and Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. Just like if you're a member of the Krishna conscious movement, you can be in Krishna's pastimes and Lord Chaitanya's pastimes simultaneamente, as simultaneously. Okay, interesting. Mathurate Keshavera Nityasani Dana Nilachile Purushottama Jagannatha Nama. Lord Keshava eternally resides at Mathura, and Lord Purushottam, known by the name of Jagannath, eternally resides at Nilachal. So Lord Jagannath, just seeing Lord Jagannath makes one extremely fortunate. One becomes happy seeing Lord Jagannath. Lord Jagannath is Krishna, who is feeling separation from Vrindavan. That's why his eyes are big like that. That's why Balaram's eyes are big. That's why Subhadra's eyes are big. It's Krishna, non-different. It's Krishna, Brajendra Nandana, feeling separation from Krishna and Vrindavan. Just feeling separation from himself and from the gopis and all the residents of Vrindavan. Pretty ecstatic. Prayage Madhava Mandare Shri Madhu Sudana Ananda Ranye Vasudeva Padmanabha Janardana. At Prayag, the Lord is situated as Bindu Madhava, and at Mandara Parvata, it's a mountain. The Lord is known as Madhusudana Vasudeva Padmanabha Janardana, and Janardana reside at Anantaranya. That's a forest. Aranya. Ananda Aranya means unlimited forest. Vishnu Kanchite Vishnu Harirahi Mayapure Achiyarandhana Murti Brahmanda Vitare. At Vishnu Kanchi there is Lord Vishnu, at Mayapur Lord Hari, and throughout the universe a variety of other forms. All these forms are Murti forms, and they worship in the temples, so this is also in reference to the deities. Their names are Keshava, Mathura, Purushottam, Jagannath at Nilachal, Shibindu Madhava at Prayag, Madhusudana at Mandara, and Vasudeva Padmanabha and Janardana at Anandaranya. Anandaranya means unlimited forest, which is situated in Kerala, South India. That makes sense. At Vishnu Kanchi is Lord Radhadaraja, that means the wish-fulfilling deity, the king of the wish-fulfilling deities, and Hari is situated in Mayapur, Lord Chaitanya's birth set. Thus, in different places, these are presiding deities. Throughout the universe, there are various deities and temples of bestowing their causeless mercy upon the devotees. All these deities' forms are non-different from the Murtis in the spiritual world, or the Vaikunthas. Although the Archamurti, the worshipful deity form of the Lord, appears to be made of material elements, it is as good as the spiritual forms found in the spiritual Vaikuntha lokas. The deity in the temple, however, is visible to the material eyes of the devotee. It is not possible for one in material conditioned life to see the spiritual form of the Lord. To bestow causeless mercy upon us, the Lord appears as the Archamurti, so that we can see him. That's the deity. It is forbidden to consider the Archamurti to be made of stone or wood. And the Padma Purana, it is said, Arche Vishnu Shiladir Guru Shunaramatir Vaishnave Jatiburir Vishnurva Vaishnavanam Kalimala Matare Paratirte Mbu Buddhi Shri Vishnu Namni Mantre Sakala Kalusha He Shabdam Samanya Buddhir Vishnu Sarveshvare Sarveshvare Sarveshvareshe Taditara Samadir Yasha Vadnaraki Saha. No one should consider the deity in the temple to be made of stone or wood, nor should one consider the spiritual master an ordinary human being. No one should consider a Vaishnava to belong to a particular caste or creed, and no one should consider Caritamrta or Ganges water to be like ordinary water. Nor should anyone consider the Hare Krishna Mahamantra to be materialist vibration. All these expansions of Krishna in the material world are simply demonstrations of the Lord's mercy and willingness to give facility to his devotees or engage in his devotional service within the material world. Okay, covered a lot today. We went, alrighty, to text 217, 175 to 217. All right, we are moving along here. Now, don't worry about all these technical things. So don't ask me questions about the technical things. Ask me questions about something that's relevant to your spiritual life. So, I'm unmuting you or allowing you to unmute yourself. So who in the material world has a question? So you can type your question or unmute yourself or raise your little hand.
Hare Krishna Gurudev, please accept my respectful obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and you.
Nikant, good to see you. So you have some questions.
Yes, Gurudev. Gurudev, in lectures, we hear that, like if we take an example of a story of hunter Mrigrari, and Narad Muni gave him Mahamantra, like chant Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, in one of the lectures I heard that every yuga has different mantra like Satyuga, Treta, Dwapar, and it is not actually Hare Krishna Mahamantra in Satyuga. So what is right, what is wrong, and how to understand this, Gurudev?
Okay, so first of all, the Hare Krishna Mahamantra is equally applicable in every yuga. It may not be the specific yuga mantra, but it can be given in every single. It's not that it's only useful in this yuga, but it's actually can be given in any yuga. However, sometimes when Prabhupada is explaining these different pastimes, he puts the Hare Krishna Mahamantra in the place of the actual mantra that the person is chanting. For example, Dhruva Maharaj was chanting Om Namo Vasudevaya, Om Namo Vasudevaya, Om Namo Vasudevaya. And sometimes when people are telling the story, they may say Dhruva Maharaj was chanting Hare Krishna, but it's non-different. It's non-different. But he was chanting Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, or you have Valmiki, he was chanting Ram, 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 Ram. He wasn't chanting Hare Krishna. And then you have Ramanujacharya, Om Namo Narayanaya, Om Namo Narayanaya, Om Namo Narayanama, like that. And so sometimes, just because all the names of the Lord, Nam Namakari Bahuda, Nija Sarvasatish, Tetrapita Nimata Smarane Nakala, etc. As Lord Chaitanya says that the Krishna is not different than his names, therefore you have thousands and millions of names like Krishna, Govinda, etc. So in one sense it's non-different than chanting Hare Krishna. So if we say that the Dhruva Maharaj was chanting Hare Krishna, it's not actually wrong, although it may not be precisely what he was doing, but it's not wrong because it's non-different. What he was chanting, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, was non-different from Hare Krishna. So Prabhupada may explain it like that. Does that make sense?
Yes, Gurudev. That means in any yuga, if one chants Hare Krishna mantra, it has got same potency. It is not
That's
that
right.
only in
That's
Kali Yuga.
right. It is an eternal mantra, but it's specifically revealed in Kali Yuga because it's the highest mantra. It's the Maha mantra. And what do we need? We need more mercy, more compassion, and more tolerance than people needed in other yugas. And in Satya Yuga especially, they didn't need too much mercy. They were all completely like Paramahamsas, basically, except for a few demons running around. So we need the Maha Mantra. We need something that, we need, let's say, okay, let's talk about different types of cars. Some cars go slow, some cars go fast. So we need a car that goes fast, like a Tesla. In Kali Yuga, which I got a ticket for. But if you go too fast in spiritual life, you won't get a ticket, so don't worry about it. All right?
Okay, Gurudev. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
I read the glories of a person doing Ekadasi, and it mentioned, here's a question. Oh my God, what are these Ekadasi questions again? It mentioned that he would live so many years in Vaikuntha. Please, liberation, please not. Liberation in Vaikuntha is eternal. Don't worry about all these different Ekadasi books. Oh my God, one gets really caught up in sometimes even Karma Kanda stuff. If you become Krishna conscious or you go to Vaikuntha, it's eternal. And so this particular expression, and one can live in Vaikuntha so many years, is not precise, and I would question that particular book. So there's so many books, and so much, actually, this is another point. When Prabhupada left the planet, devotees got into so many of these Puranas, and so many of these different injunctions from the Puranas, and basically there's a problem. Basically the problem is that most of these Puranas have not been passed down through disciplic succession. Most of them have been changed dramatically, things added to it. And like in any religion or religious society, there's rituals that are added or different stories that are added. Let's take the Mahabharata, for example. Mahabharata has not been passed down in disciplic succession. Sripad Madhvacharya has commented on the Mahabharata is Tatparat Nirinaya, Tatparatana Nirinaya, if I pronounce it properly. And he said that Mahabharata has been corrupted. And so corrupted means, not that it's corrupt literature, that means people have added things to it, people have subtracted things to it over the years because it hasn't been passed down in disciplic succession. So the same thing with a lot of these little details that you really find just all over the place. And when I joined the Hare Krishna movement, you chant Hare Krishna and eat prasadam and you preach and you help people and you develop compassion. That's the movement I joined. Now the movement I joined, hopefully it's still there, hopefully, I'm just hoping, had added to it all those extraneous things that Prabhupada never gave us. And then you lose sight. You actually lose sight of, what do you lose sight of? The goal. You lose sight of the goal. Gopal has another explanation. Yeah, sometimes Swarga is referred to as Vaikuntha because in comparison to Marshalok, it's free from anxiety. That's one way to explain it. But Swarga is not free of anxiety. I got news for you. If you read the Caritamrta, hopefully one day you'll read it. I was just reading it, and it says that the demigods are in anxiety. Why are they anxiety? Because there's demons. It is not free of anxiety there, because there you have more, and you have more to lose. Just like Sanatana Goswami. Sanatana Goswami had these gold coins with him when he escaped from prison. I think some of you remember this. And he gave them up, because if he had them, they would be his death knell. So demigods, they're very Indra's full anxiety. Bhukti mukti, siddhi kam, sakala yashanta. So, anyway, so that's so the point I'm getting to is that after Prabhupada left the planet, things became so ritualistic that it, in many places, it became a different movement. I mean, if I had to get into all these rituals, forget it. I just want to chant Hare Krishna and be happy. I want to hear Krishna's pastimes. I want to serve Prabhupada. I want to reach out to the conditioned souls. I mean, was Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur so much into these? I don't think so. Was Prabhupada into that? I don't think so. So these are our acharyas, but you know, we're more intelligent than our acharyas. I'm speaking about that in a facetious way. And we think we know more. We don't know more. So anyway, so just be careful. I mean, don't just read Prabhupada's books, please. You know, all these books about Ekadasi. If you go to this Ekadasi, then you'll be rich. If you go to, tell me which Ekadasi that is. I'd like to become rich. Anyway, so here's another one. Please, in olden days, Brahmins used to sacrifice animals in fire, and it gives acceptable because it skips the cycle of birth and it gives them a human form. Yes. I still don't feel that it's not right to sacrifice animals alive. This is a double negative. I still don't feel it is right. That's what you meant. Or I feel that it's not right. No, I wouldn't do it. Prabhupada explains it's not, people in the mode of goodness wouldn't do it. Generally, except, you know, exceptional cases when you had a Ashvamedha Gomeda. No, no, Gopal. In the heavenly planets, they're just as much in anxiety as we are. Actually, maybe even more so, because they have more to lose. I'm not in anxiety. I mean, leave my body, get a fresh new body, you know. Like trading in my car. Hare Krishna Maharaj, how do you differentiate between activities of devotional service and how does karma kanda ritualistic? That's a very good question. Devotional service has two aspects to it. One is to please Krishna, and the other one is to do what Krishna wants to please him. And yalbi lachan dashunyam jnana karmana vritamana kuyena krishnana shinanam bhakti. So karma kanda activity is to do something for myself, and especially material upliftment, you know, gross material upliftment. Or ritualistic means to get into all sorts of things that were not taught to me by my guru, and I forget the goal. That's called Niyamagraha. Guru Dev, here's another one. Oh my God, we opened up the Pandora's box. And ISKCON Tulsidas Ramayan is quoted frequently, including gurus. How to understand it? Is it appropriate to please enlighten us? Because naturally comes to mind that Guru Dev says it's got Mayavad touch. Is it a fact? Prabhupada said it has a touch of Mayavad philosophy, but you can use it as a preaching tool because that's what people are accustomed to, so you can make some reference to it. Just like I may make reference to politics or something like that. Anyway, I'm not going to get into that particularly. You're not in any of the material spheres. Ah, yeah, sure. Thank you, Gopal, for your praise, but I don't think that's true. Yeah, sometimes we have to quote from some other book just to verify, but it's not that we take these other books as authoritative, that's all. I mean, I quote sometimes from Maslow, who was a psychologist. Lord Jagannath? Is Lord Jagannath Nilacho a separate loka, uh, just on the earth? That's an interesting question. I don't know. Lord Jagannath definitely exists internally. I mean, he's an eternal manifestation of the Lord. Whether he has a loka in the spiritual world, there is a Jagannath uh, loka, but whether he looks like that in the spiritual world or not, I think you'll have to figure that one out. That we have to figure out. Okay, that's an end of questions, and we've come to an end of our time. So we'll see everybody tomorrow when I will be a free man, free of the hotel, and free of all the music that they play in the hotel all night long. It's interesting because there's guards at the hotel. They don't allow the devotees generally to give me things, so they have to go through the guards. So last night at what was it, about midnight, I was woken up by the guards to deliver a package of japa beads to chant. And at 9 o'clock, I was woken up by some devotees who wanted to say hello, who work in the health ministry. So didn't get much rest last night. And then also at 12:30 midnight, I had a GBC meeting because the time here is quite different. So it's a little intense. The GBC meeting, which is at 6:30. No, it was actually 11:30 at this night. So, which is at 6:30 in the morning, East Coast time, United States, is 11:30 in the morning. 11:30 at night, Fiji time, and so I was online at the meeting. So even at the hotel, and then all night long, you hear all this native music being played, people screaming. It's not something I would like to. I want to stay with devotees, and tomorrow I'm going to stay with devotees on the beach. So hopefully Krishna will get me out of here. I do not like hotels, that's for sure. Okay, so see everybody tomorrow. Same time, same station. All glories to His divine grace. Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada.